Good morning, welcome to my channel. Before I get started on my topic that I have put out as far as the title of this video, I thought I would take care of some business first. So let's get that out of the way and then I'll get to the topic. So what I want people to do that subscribe to this channel or are even new to this channel is go to BitChute and subscribe there. Anybody that is a subscriber here, if you will, I would like you to go to BitChute and subscribe there, because I just run into too much censorship and shadow banning on the YouTube platform. It's getting worse every day, even with comments. So I would ask that you go to BitChute, and I'll put the, or Rumble, and I'll put the links in the show notes below so you can do that. Another thing that I wanted to get out of the way, some people don't understand when I say desert shaman, the word shaman somehow is a stumbling block to them. If it was the desert minister or the desert whatever, newsboy or whatever, then they might not have such a problem. People are afraid of the word shaman. Shaman is a term that came from Russia and originally, but was disseminated around the world to mean people that are able to access alternative realities. How you do that is too long of an explanation for me to cover here. And what you access to as far as spiritual forces, what you have access to is benevolent. It's benevolent. Anything that affects a healing, and shamans were known for healing, are known for that, then in order to enable that type of healing, you have to connect yourself with benevolent forces. Just get that out of the way. Now, the other thing that I wanted to cover is donations. Really appreciate it if you would support this channel, subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and change the algorithms. And I have two places that I have several places you can go. You can either go to Patreon, that'll be in the show notes below, or you can go to spiritofcrazyhorse.com. That'll be in the show notes below. So I'm kind of doing a revamp here. I'm going to start going in different directions. Now let's get to the topic of the day, which is Bibi thinks he's Yaweh or Jehovah. Bibi meaning Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel. He thinks he's Yahweh. Well, let me inform you right now about a lot of people talk about his biblical narrative, or the things that he talks about as far as the Amalekites or Amalek or any of that misinformation. It's not misinformation. It shows a mind set. It shows that Benjamin Netanyahu, known as Bibi, basically thinks he's Yahweh. He thinks he's Jehovah God himself. He thinks he's fulfilling prophecy. And if you know anything about scriptures, and I do, let me qualify that by saying I studied the scriptures, the Bible, in Jewish teachings and all that, the Kabbalah, the Zohar. I studied all of that stuff for the first 30 years of my life. Know it inside out, forwards and backwards. So if we want to talk about what Bibi means when he says that the enemy, the Palestinians, are his enemy, and they're the Amalekites, or Amakites, or whatever word he uses. It's basically, it's the Canaanites, and it's the enemies of Yahweh, basically. If you go back into Scripture, you'll find out that the Israelites always had some kind of enemy that they had to overcome, and always they attributed that as a test from their God Yahweh. Now, when I say Bibi thinks he's Yahweh, Yahweh thinks he's Yahweh. Yahweh thinks he's God. And I've gone into this many times before, as far as the Gnostic scriptures, okay, that were deleted from the original canon of the Bible because they told you too much. And their take on Yaldabaoth, which is the imposter god, which is connected or the same thing as Yahweh. So that gets off into a whole different narrative, or let's say mindset, or philosophical belief or religious belief about the imposter god, Sophia, the energy of creation, which is Sophia, which also could be Shakti and Shiva in the Hindu tradition. I hope I'm not losing people here, because I'm trying to make a point here. I get off on little tangents, and when I get off on these little tangents, it's to educate you. It's to educate you so that you get, you get a lot of stuff at once in regards to the topic that I'm talking about. And if you pay attention or you review the video, you're going to find out a lot of stuff that you didn't know before. So anyway, this Bibi thinks he's Yahweh because he's trying to take the scriptures literally. Now, what is he doing in the world right now? Well, he's trying to start Armageddon. That's what he's trying to do. And Armageddon in the Bible comes from the term Megiddo. Armageddon is actually a phrase that was formed, or a word that was formed around the Valley of Megiddo. And in the Valley of Megiddo, there were a lot of battles that took place. There were wars, okay? And the Israelites have that seed in them, that war seed, okay? And that war seed comes from, now let's get back to the Yahweh God. I'm going to jump around here, but you should follow me. Yeah, the Yahweh God is the war god. The Yahweh God was a god that was of the deity of a particular tribe of people in Israel, all right? So this gets really deep, because then you got Abraham with El Shaddai, who is the mountain god. The way that the God of the Bible that we know today was formed was a combination of El Shaddai and Yahweh, the war god. El Shaddai was mentioned by Abraham and goes way back into other cultures, the Sumerian culture and that type of thing, the god of the mountain. So when these tribes, these warring factions, and there were many warring factions and tribes in Israel, or in that whole Jewish, and that's the only word I can use here, the Jewish nation, okay? The Jews Okay, had all kinds of tribes, and they had the tribe of Israel and this and that, and the 12 tribes, and it gets really complicated. But to boil it down to the nitty gritty here is that they had gods, and they had Baal, and they had El Shaddai, and they had Ashtoreth. Not too many people know that one of the main gods or goddesses was Ashtoreth, who was the goddess energy, a feminine aspect that many, many people worshipped, okay? We'll just say biblical people. How's that? That'll simplify things real easy. We don't have to say Jews, or we'll just say biblical people, the biblical crowd, okay? Which encompasses much of today's crowd as well. So Bibi got on this thing where he thinks that he has to have a war with his enemy, okay? A war with his enemy, just like the ancient biblical people of old, the Israelites. And they were constantly getting into battles, and when they got into these battles, they were merciless, okay? It was a thing like, let's take for example, when Joshua fought the Battle of Jericho, came out of the wilderness and went into the land of Canaan and fought the Battle of Jericho. It was a command from Yaweh, all right, the war god. It was a command from him, okay, who incidentally had just visited Moses and the whole crew on the mountain in the wilderness, and gave him the 10 Commandments, which said, "Thou shalt not kill." All right. So you get a direct hypocritical or reversal of meaning, in which could leave you confused right there if you didn't know what was happening, all right? So when Joshua left the wilderness and was commanded to go into Jericho, he was commanded to kill every man, woman, child, beast, infant, dog, cats, everything, cattle. It's called a scorched earth policy. That's exactly what Benjamin Netanyahu, Nitwittenyahu, I like to call him. He's a nitwit. Look at the guy. Just look at his face. Look at his body language. Look at his actions. Big old round Humpty Dumpty face with giant elephant ears and a big nose, and just a real buffoon-looking guy. Looks like he doesn't know shit, just judging from his energy and his physical appearance. Just a big dumb nut is what he is. Who thinks he's Yahweh, who thinks that he's going to lead the people of Israel to a victory. So what is this doing? This is taking the Bible and projecting it on the world in the form of war. He's taking the Bible and projecting it on the world. It's projected. It's just like when someone that you know projects an image of you on you that they think is you when it isn't you. They project an image of you. It's called projection. That's their worldview. That's their mindset. I've had people do this to me, ex-wives and all kinds of people project on me something that wasn't on me. That's called projection. That's kind of like a form of black magic or voodoo, if you really want to know the truth about it. Because you're projecting and you're messing with another person's energy. So if you extrapolate that out into what Netanyahu is doing, is projecting this image on the world of what he thinks the world should be. He thinks the world should come to a final climax at the Battle of Armageddon. That's Jewish thought, that's Jewish writing. The Jews wrote the Bible. Now, I'm not talking about the New Testament here. That's a whole different thing. But this basically is the mindset of the persecuted Jews, the victimized Jews. And this didn't just happen at the Holocaust in Germany. This started in ancient times. This is a history of the sickness, okay, of this buffoon and what he's trying to project on society as a whole, or the world at large. So this Bibi character is setting himself up as a war god, okay? A war god, and somebody that has been victimized and needs to retaliate in all-out war against the enemy. Just like in the Bible, the Israelites, again, I'm going to get back to where I was, the Israelites were constantly being persecuted by their enemies, okay? Now, when they were persecuted by their enemies, they always blamed it, the scribes and the Pharisees or the Jewish leaders always blamed it on the fact it was never God's fault, it was their fault, and they were being judged by their God for doing things like worshiping false idols and getting out of line here and there and not holding to the narrative, basically. So they were constantly being punished by this so-called all-loving, all-merciful God. That's where El Shaddai comes in, and Yaweh. El Shaddai was more of a merciful type God, okay, and Yahweh was the one that was the warring son of a bitch, okay. Now, those two got fused somehow. That's why there's so much confusion in the Bible about, well, how could God be merciful on one hand and show loving kindness on one hand, and on the other hand, he is a murderous thug, basically, out to get every man, woman, and child and strike fear into their hearts. So what we have here when I'm talking about Bibi is a person that is basically bought into a belief system, but he doesn't probably even know his own belief system. He doesn't know the merciful side, the El Shaddai side. He's just focused in on the Yahweh side, all right, the war god, who was just an insignificant god way back in the tribal days, until the merge of El Shaddai and Yahweh rose him to some kind of power, all right? This is all factual research, okay, facts, research, that I spent hours and hours and hours of time researching and reading many books. And again, I knew the scriptures as a kid, and through the age of 30, I knew them outside, inside, forwards, and backwards. The words of Christ, I went into in-depth study after my initial years, and I got, let's say, a more expanded view of spirituality, and received different kinds of information and direction from Spirit, the true Spirit, the guiding Spirit, the benevolent Spirit, makes you a seeker and acknowledges your seeking and shows you different things as needed, all right? So that you can expand your whole spiritual horizons rather than just focusing in on one particular set of scriptures when there's millions of scriptures from all different sources? Hindu, Sumerian, Taoist, Confucianism, just the list goes on and on and on. So basically what's happening in the world today is a projection on of the Judeo-Christian, Judeo meaning Jewish, Judah, Judeo-Christian concept and the Jewish concept, all right? Now people talk about nationalism, okay, and the Zionist factor, which is true, 100% true, but that does not excuse, basically that's what, when people focus in on Zionism, basically what they're trying to do is make themselves squeaky clean and not talk about the Jewish aspect. Them as a people, always trying to deflect it off onto, and yes, they're both the same thing. In a sense, I mean, they're not, in a sense they're not, because there's a faction, there's factions here that are more political, okay? And there's factions that are more religious. But when you got a guy like Bibi Netanyahu, who is obviously a Zionist, crossing over into supposedly the very spiritual side of the Bible, or let's not say the spiritual side, let's say the literal side of the Bible, aligning himself with the Bible, aligning himself with the Jewish Bible, then what you have here is a narrative of politics on one hand and the Bible on another, hand in hand like that. The two are not compatible. Spirituality, true spirituality, is not compatible with politics. And if you know Jesus' words in the New Testament, Jesus condemned not only the organized religions, the Pharisees and the Sadducees and that bunch of crew, not only did he condemn them, he called them vipers and the lowest thing on the earth. So that's where the Christ consciousness comes in, because supposedly Jesus the man was exemplifying Christ consciousness and could see through all the bullshit. And wanted to bring about a more peaceful, less warring, okay, peaceful, loving concept, all right? But even that can, if you delve into everything, the more you delve, actually, the more you want to know, because the whole concept of if you delve into the, let's say, the apostles and Jesus Christ and the 12 apostles, you find out that they were actually a military or a guerrilla type fighting group. Yeah, I know that sounds far out, but it doesn't sound so far out when you read the words of Jesus telling them to sell their goods or their clothing or whatever, I don't know the exact phrase, and buy a sword, go out and buy a sword. That might tell you something. And then you got Judas Iscariot, or Scario, which means knife. And it means Judas Iscariot was a master of using the knife. You got a group of people here that formed around the concept of the threatening empire of Rome and the tyranny of Rome. So that the group that was Jesus and the 12 apostles were a little bit more, let's say, on the side of, and they even expected that. Jesus kind of surprised them because all the guys around him were like, you know, here we got this guerrilla fighting group supposedly, and all of a sudden this man comes off and starts talking about maybe having an epiphany or was sent there to do that or whatever, but starts talking about peaceful things and love and how to love your enemies, all right? So that's what I meant earlier when I said the New Testament is something that is to be explored further, and actually the whole concept of Jesus and the Christ mind. An exemplification of the Christ mind or the Christ consciousness. The Christ consciousness is a whole different thing than Jesus the man, right? On a metaphysical level, there's always metaphysical meanings for everything, even the Bible, even the names in the Bible, there's metaphysical meanings for this, and some branches of Christianity and Judaism go off onto the metaphysical aspect. The higher spiritual meanings of things, like the Kabbalah, and, Christianity that comes down on the side of mysticism or mystical Christianity. So you got different. Let me take a little drink here. You got different ways of coming in on all this stuff. You can't just take everything literally. So you can actually take a book like the Bible that was written by Jews and go to a higher mystical concept of it, which many have done. In the Kabbalah is basically with the tree of life, all that stuff, has been co-opted by many people. That's a higher view. Well, that's not where you think I'm getting off topic here, but I'm not. That's not where Benjamin Netanyahu is coming from, that high mystical spiritual level. He's coming from a low murderous level, a low warring level, right? He's not coming from Christ consciousness at all. So you can sit around and watch all these newsboys like on Judge Napolitano and the Duran and all these different people, and you can get their take on what's going on this very, 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 very freaking low level of how it's playing out in the physical reality. You're not getting the information on what's going on the higher levels, the metaphysical and spiritual levels here. What's going on the higher consciousness levels, what's going on the knowing levels, and that's what I'm giving you right now. Hell, I could have been a minister. I am an ordained minister. What I'm saying, when I'm going in the world of shamanism, that means you go into alternate viewpoints, alternate realities. You come in for more from medicine man aspect. But if I wanted to come on here as the Church of Thunder, incidentally, Thunder was Christ's name as well. If I wanted to come in here from that aspect, I'd have people lined up out there, because minister seems to make everything okay, or reverend or rabbi or whatever. So the metaphysical view, the spiritual view, is more of a Christ consciousness view, right? Coming from goodness and benevolence and that type of thing, kind of transcending all the dogma and all the bullshit surrounding religious takes on the Bible, okay? So this is what we got going on right now. Actually, Netanyahu is delusional. Or let's say he might think that he's being guided by Yaweh. He might think that he's being guided by him. When I say he thinks he's him, I'm just saying that he's so bought into it that in his mind it's almost like he is him, because he's carrying out biblical prophecy that needs to be carried out. Okay? Because it's part of the biblical world view of the world. And the Bible is permeated everywhere in the world. It took over the whole world. The whole concept, the whole Jewish concept took over the whole world. Hello? This little tiny, tiny group of people, little tribal group of people, their thoughts, their writings somehow expanded out and just covered the whole world for no reason that anybody can think of. Why did that happen? So he feels like he has a need to fulfill some kind of prophecy that everybody in the whole world buys into. You got Christians, and then you got Judeo-Christians, and then you got Jewish Christians, but it's all Jews because it's all comes from the Bible. Get it? So in the Bible, there's scriptures in there. Like I say, I know it inside out and forwards and backwards. There is a thing in there, a scripture in there, and I'm not into rote memorization of scriptures and spouting it off, because that sounds too ministerial, all right? It's not coming from the heart, it's coming from a rote dogma. Oh, Proverbs 23 this, or Psalms whatever. Yeah, I could go back and recall all the correlations, but I'm not. I'm not going to do that. But the scripture that I'm thinking of is, he shall pull them forward, like he shall put put hooks in their jaws. The nations, this is Yahweh doing this. He shall put hooks in their jaws and pull them towards confrontation, destruction. So that this big final battle of Megiddo, or the Armageddon, or the end times can take place, okay? And then after that, there's supposed to be a big cleansing and a new order, okay? That term has been used from day one by religious groups before you even heard of it in the concept of the Illuminati and the Bilderberg Commission and all that. That term New World Order, or that's been around a long, long time, all right? On a religious level. The New World Order, meaning the paradise earth, surviving Armageddon, going into what we would call paradise. Everything's beautiful. There's flowing waters all around, palm trees, no pain, no death. Animals get along, everything gets along. No, I'm not putting down that concept. That's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm telling you is what leads up to that is a narrative, or a dogmatic religious narrative. And so Netanyahu is using that. Now, whether he actually believes it, the jury's out, because that guy's psychotic. His body language, his looks, his actions, his speech, just like Biden or any other world leader, they all exhibit what we would call a psychosis, okay, or confusion, or not knowing which role to play, or not knowing even that they're playing a role. How's that? Okay. Not even knowing that, because it's all coming from their subconscious and they have no idea what the hell they're doing. That's another concept of what could be going on here. But in any case, I hope you have, I've given you a little insight, a little bit more insight as to what drives these people. And let's face it, most of the people on Earth, a good majority of the people on Earth have bought into the biblical narrative, and in the United States and in the West, we're Christians. We're Christians, the Christian right, and this and that and the other thing, and the evangelicals and all this stuff. All that stuff is a direct connection, or is an anchor, or is some type of reactive anchor that can be activated at a moment's notice by just talking about the end times, and just talking about Armageddon, and just talking about Yaweh, or just talking about all the different things that are associated with the scriptures. And by the scriptures, I'm not saying all, I'm saying the biblical scriptures. The Bible. Well, there's lots of Bibles, okay? Get over it. So that I hope will give you some insight as to what's going on here. Hope that will give you some insight. I take a roundabout way sometimes, but it's always to educate. It's always to get you thinking, get the juices flowing. Make it so that you think outside of the box instead of always trundling along in this lower level of like listening to these guys out there that tell you all the bad news, tell you what's going on. Oh, Bibi's doing this, and Gaza and Biden and blah 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 blah. It's going on, and they can't figure out why. And why is this? Why is it so bad right now? And why doesn't anything make sense? And why has America gone south and morphed into some kind of heinous, monstrous thing? And they can't figure this out, you know. But in order to figure out the effect, you have to go to the cause. Go to the cause of the effect, okay? You can look at the effect all day and be scratching your head, but you've got to look at the cause of the effect. And it's cause people are buying into this narrative. The whole biblical narrative. I'm telling you, it can be really destructive. Now, I'm not saying there isn't anything to be learned from the Bible. I don't want you to get, because I learned plenty from it, didn't I? Just looking at it. There's all kinds of things. And again, we're talking on the mundane level here. We're not talking about the metaphysical meanings of things like hell or Christ or God or, even David, names in the Bible, Solomon, anything that's mentioned in the Bible, there's a metaphysical meaning or a higher meaning of that same word or name or whatever, which takes it out of the whole context of the traditional mundane lower level meaning and puts it in a whole other higher meaning, which is the true ministering of Christ, okay, or Christ consciousness. Now, I think I was going to mention earlier and I didn't. I probably forgot, but if I did, well, shame on me. I just kind of channel information out there, but Christ's name was, I think I got off on a tangent, but Christ was also known as Thunder, which is interesting. Or he made reference to thunder. At the very least, he made reference to thunder. And because one time, I think it was, can't remember the two apostles, Peter and Peter and Paul and somebody. One of the two disciples or apostles, he called them sons of thunder. Sons of thunder. You go forth, ye are sons of thunder, or something to that effect. Yes, that's in the Bible. And many have tried to divert that into meaning, well, no, he didn't really mean his name was Thunder, which obviously I think he did. Sons of Thunder, they're his apostles, they're his disciples, his sons of thunder go forth. But some people have brought up an interesting thing that, it could mean that they were boisterous and spoke vehemently and were outgoing and very, let's say, intense. So they were. He laughed and called them sons of thunder, which is pretty cool too, even if that was the case, because it's just cool. Because the thunder gods, and even Yaweh sometimes was known as a thunder god. There are many thunder gods, war gods. So you can look at that all kinds of different ways, like he was saying it sarcastically, or he was saying it, from the point of view, like, you're my sons and you're out there, you're sons of thunder. Whatever way you want to take that, I think it's all pretty cool to me, since I've taken that name. And there is a whole tradition of the lineage of thunder going back in the Native American tradition as well. So it's pretty ingrained. It's definitely something to consider and think about. But I can cover that on another video. And I will cover a lot of other things from a metaphysical level. I'm not getting out to too many people here because of the YouTube bullshit. But that's why I said at the very beginning, you got to go to BitChute and Rumble. And until I figure out another way here to approach this, get by the AI, because AI is stupid, and all this algorithms and all this, it's pretty stupid when you look at it. Could be fooled easily. It's more robotic than it is smart. Okay, it doesn't have spiritual intelligence, right? So AI is something I gotta ponder on here and figure out a few things, okay? It's just like when Solomon controlled the demons, basically. Solomon controlled the demons, they didn't control him. If he wanted a temple, built the temple to Yahweh, incidentally. If he wanted that built, he would just command his demons to go build it. It is sad, okay? But that's another topic too. See, I might get into all kinds of topics here, since maybe a lot of you can relate, because a lot of you come from that background. So if I can relate to you on that level, that might be a good thing. Keep in mind the donation thing, will you? Really appreciate it. And on Patreon, you can do a monthly thing. You can do a monthly thing, even if it's like $5 a month or something. You can subscribe, and you don't even think about it. It's just $5 a month goes to Thunder, whatever, or this channel. That would be much appreciated for whatever good you get out of this. So I'll just leave it there for today. Namaste.